Hello, everybody. I'm here with what's going to be another cast for the League Community Tournaments. So today's match will be Enigma versus Adorolosporros. I'm still setting things up just to like the win ratio would be Enigma versus Adoro. Should get started real soon here. Just waiting on the first players to be sent in, and then we will get started. In the background, I'll still be hunting for a Magnus though. So those of you who've been watching my channel previously know that I've been here all week with no luck. But hopefully the matches go pretty quick that we don't have to do too many encounters between. Looks like we're having a little switch of the refs real quick, just so that we don't have Loreweaver reffing 3 games. While we're waiting quick, I will do just a quick intro again to the league tournament, just kind of like the rules. So it is an open info tournament as far as like gears and teams. So ahead of time, the opponents will get to know, or the players will know their opponents' gears and tems. It is teams of 6, which send in 4 players. They lock in their teams ahead of time, and they send in 1 player at a time. To each team sends in 1 player, and if that player loses, they are eliminated. And we keep going through matches until one player's team is entirely eliminated. All 4 of the players that they choose to play on that day. So effectively, it's a best of 7. But if you lose, you cannot play again. But if you win a match, you can play a second time. There's quite a few matches going on right now. So if anyone, hello like you, if anyone wants some more content and is just stopping by, you can also turn on Loreweaver's channel. I know he's streaming DK's Team Naga versus Bots United. And I think there's also Phoenix versus the Spanish Inquisition that will be going on. I'm not sure if anyone's casting that. Hello, Adam, welcome. Like I said, we're just waiting a bit here, just for the players to send in their teams to send in their players. And then as soon as they do, we'll hop in and start spectating. If anyone is not in the league server, I or somebody else can send you an invite. There's a lot of people in it. You could just ask in the main competitive Discord comp chat. Just about anyone there could send you an invite. And then if you're in there, you can see the players' teams and gears ahead of time. Sometimes I like to forget unintentionally that it is actually an open info tournament. And I'll be like, oh, does this tem have this gear, so on. But really, we actually know ahead of time. But that's okay, because I'm not the one playing, and hopefully that the teams playing do utilize that aspect. This is... Coordinating for these types of matches are always pretty difficult. Two teams full of 4 to 6 players from all over the world, lots of different time zones. It can be really rough to schedule, so sometimes people are really pushing their schedules, and that's why we end up a little late. Because technically we should have started like 6 minutes ago, but that's all good. I guess just to go. Let me see if I can figure out who's on the teams. Adorolosporros, we have Villain, we have Totex, Infinitus, Young Base Lord, Axel 8, and Kiskles. And then on Team Soul Enigma, there's Red Moon, Grunty, Neo X Elite, and Morgana, and Aches. B Flattened was recently on there, but had to drop, unfortunately. I don't think they picked up a new player since then, but they would be able to. Looks like match 1 will be Grunty versus Young Base Lord. I know that Grunty loves Drakash. When my team faced Soul Enigma the last time, or I think it was actually 2 weeks ago now. Grunty was running kind of like a Sparks core with Platamus, Amphitheater, Drakash, and such. So I wonder if he'll be running that again. Still waiting on the team, so I can't say for sure. Last time I saw Young Base Lord, he was running a late Torment team with like Comebacker Yowler, Cobweb, Acronox, and handcuffs on something. It was very interesting, pretty threatening. Most of the time when you see Yowler, you think, oh, it's going to be a raid boss. It's going to use Hibernate, maybe Winter's Call and stuff, but with the Comebacker boost, it can actually output a lot of damage. Yeah, still just waiting for some team submissions. It's good not to start the matches ahead of time. We've had times where people will start pick ban before they actually get to see the gears of their opponent. And if it's like a sleep-based team, and then knowing where the energy drink and bait are located could influence the pick ban phase quite a bit. So they're just waiting to make sure everything's in line and maybe discuss just a little bit before they get started. Great. Looks like they're just about ready. Young Base Lord has picked blue side. Because Adoro picked, or won the coin toss. Looks like we are seeing the same team from both players. So I wonder if we'll see some stuff like maybe just Spark scaling and ignoring a Yowler. Because if you don't attack Yowler, Comebacker actually does not proc. And Yowler, like turn 1, like if you look where the handcuffs is located, you can just ban it out. It looks like it's on a Volphy this time. Volphy's a very popular Tem, has use, and handcuffs is just a solid item on it. Being able to push off statuses and apply trapped and exhaust. There we go. Alright. Now you guys can see the full teams too. And it'll be easier to look through the matchup. So yeah, so there's kind of like, there's late Torment with combos with Yowler, Acronox, and Volphy. But then there's also 2-wire combos with Faraday Cage, stuff with Mashuk, Acronox, even Vola. And I mean, Faraday Cage is on Mogu as well. I know Mashuk and Mogu is a very threatening combo. And then on Grunty's side, triple fire, triple water, triple earth. Lots of actually the same typings. So he doesn't play into the mental melee digis whatsoever. So stuff like Mulgu doesn't actually have a good offensive advantage into Grunty's team at all. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Volphy or a Acronox ban, though, because just for pure type chart reasons, they have a strong advantage. Triple fire, triple earth, double nature, double electric, double wind. Yeah, there's like, it's interesting to see a team that only actually has like 5 types in the game on it. If it wasn't for Plat, there really would only be like 5 types. I think there's actually 6 though, but I don't feel like counting. So we see the Yowler, Acronox lead. Amphitheater does not have evasion turn 1, so I would not be surprised to just see a Sting into late Torment. We know that on Grunty's team there is a bait on the Turok, so I wouldn't be surprised, to see that ban, just so that it can't swap in to eat the Cobweb Sting from the Acronox turn 1. I think based on lead alone, Young Base Lord has the upper hand. However, because this is an offensive Yowler, though, it doesn't have as much defensive investment. It could be easier to take down. We do see it's holding Nutbar, so it can heal through that. And Nutbar is still bugged, so it lasts 5 turns, so it'll be harder to wait out if Grunty wanted to do that. We'll just have to see. Worth noting that both of Grunty's wins were banned out, even outside of just the bait ban. Not having anything to hit the Acronox could be a big detriment as well. That's the disadvantage of kind of playing with fewer types on your team. Not having any melees here, while you get to avoid some severe weaknesses in like Digi and Mental, it makes it harder to hit stuff like Acronox here. See the Whiplam picked up on Young's side, which is very interesting considering there's double electric, nature, even a toxic. But it does threaten out that Drakash really badly if there is a board with both on it. No marbles from the Acronox just for some chip and to threaten out our threatened swaps with just a little chip damage, but the Amphitheater also has marbles. Same reason. See who blinks first here. I feel like Amphitheater might be kind of valuable just to have against the winds on Young's side, but also there's a 2-wire in the back, which can balance out any bad type charts, any bad boards that he gets into. See a Sparks on the Volphy. I'm curious where this is going to be targeting. Plague onto the Yowler. There's about 1/3 of its health. And it's actually Burglar Volphy, so it disables the nut bar. That's actually huge, because I think that turns that into a 3-hit KO instead of the expected 4-hit. Does Amphitheater live? It does. It was actually a clinch instead of a late Torment. I'm not quite sure why. We know that Grunty's Nesla does not have Chamomile, so it's not like it was able to swap in to eat the Trapped. But maybe Young Base Lord was not paying attention to the open info items. Hard to say. Because Chamomile is a very common item for Nesla. Would not have been surprised if it was running it, had I not known the items ahead of time. I would say we're pretty likely going to see another Sparks onto the Volphy and maybe even a Dust Vortex on the Yowler now that it's trapped. That would completely shut down the Yowler and anything it wants to do, because it's going to get outsped, and any amount of health it lives on can be chipped down by pretty much whatever. The issue then becomes Acronox, which has type advantage against almost everything in the back. I guess Platamus could have eaten the sting is what it was. Because Cobweb does not apply if the target does not get poisoned. And since Platamus is a toxic type, it would not have gotten hit. Toxin Shower. This is actually damaging the Yowler. While it does break the Amphiteer's evasion, the Yowler hangs on. And will it finish off the Amphitheer? No, we see an Oshidashi on the Volphy. Oshidashi is not a common move we see on Yowler, but with comebacker bonus, super effective in Volphy's low base defense. We see Volphy get wrecked. Amphitheer does heal a bit up with Relax though, and as mentioned earlier, Yowler's low enough health where it's pretty much knocked out of the game. We see Platamus come in now. It's the best remaining answer to the opposing Acronox, so I'm not surprised to see it in the slightest. We know that the Acronox is Cobweb, so Grunty does not need to worry about Book Lungs to resist the water damage at all. But Volorend, once Amphitheer's gone, Volorend's gonna love this board. There's still Nesla, obviously, but Volorend can also hit Nesla back, and Volorend has really high base special defense, so it can take a T-Strike from Nesla, and Platamus really can't do much at all to it. It's like both players thinking about their options. We see a Sparks onto the Platamus. A little surprised to see that. I suppose just helping Platamus keep some stamina sustain. It'll basically be full stamina after the Sweatband proc this turn. Acronox maybe not running Rotten Goo, so it cannot kill the Amphitheer this turn. And Amphitheer can just Bright Beam that damage off. Or Bright Beam the Toxic off and heal a little bit with Relaxed. Maybe eat another Sting the next turn. At the same time, we could just see an electric move onto this Volorend, since it's going to be a big threat for the remainder of Grunty's team. It's hard to say, but either way, Amphitheer is trapped, so it has to do something. I don't think it would be crazy to see another Sparks on the Platamus. We don't know what type of Volorend this is yet. I would guess that it's anaerobic, so it'd be tankier, but could go either way. It would be better for Grunty if it's aerobic, because it would lower its special defense, and after 1 or 2 wind moves, Nesla would be able to come on the board and one-shot it. Acronox swaps into Whiplump. So if Grunty predicted this, we could see a Whiplump get one-shot right now. We see a Plague. What does the Platamus do? I'm going to assume Platamus just uses the Aqua Bullet. No, we see a Toxin Shower, which will actually take out his own Amphitheer. And the opposing Whiplump. That Sparks Boost probably coming in handy. I don't think that would have killed without it. This also gives Platamus evasion to take the hit from Volorend. We see Nox Bomb, indicating that that is more than likely an anaerobic Volorend. So Grunty can reasonably outspeed this Volorend and deal with it whenever he has time. I think that the 2-wire on Young's side is actually working against him here. He doesn't want to bring it in on this board with Platamus because he actually gains... the Platamus gains type advantage over the Volorend then. And yet Acronox coming in is also not a great option, because once Acronox is gone, then Drakash is able to be quite a bit more free in this matchup. So it looks like Grunty's actually taking time on this decision, or maybe it's just a bug. Both of them had lost Tems this turn, so I don't know which one's taking up the timer, but this could be a crucial decision. It's worth noting that Platamus had, like, the Toxin Shower is down, so we could see a Feather Gatling onto the Platamus, which would hurt it pretty bad. Platamus's special defense is much higher than its defense. See somebody trying to use the cheerleader emote over there. It's not working, unfortunately. Hello, Pat. Welcome. Doing a cast with some gameplay from high-ranking players in the community tournaments. Got a pretty close match here. I should see the Nesla ignore the Volarant to get some damage on the Acronox. Double water moves on the Acronox, even without Book Lungs, it's able to eat that. Feather Gatling from the Volarant, dealing a lot of the damage to the Platamus. And Acronox getting Toxin Shower off. Platamus not dying, though. Nesla did take quite a bit of damage, though. More than likely dies to a Nox Bomb from the Volarant. But does it want to do that? It seems like Grunty invested a lot of health from this Platamus just to get damage on the Acronox there. This would be a great time if the Nesla's running Electric Storm to click it. It would break the evasion for Acronox as well as get some good chip on Volarant, but that would be assuming Nesla's faster than the Platamus. I don't know these players' builds though, so hard to say. Volarant does not have any special defense boosts from Anaerobic yet. We see the Water Blade and a Rotten Goo onto the Acronox. That does 1/4 damage, keeping it alive. This must have been a miscommunication in speed tiering. I'm assuming the Platamus was supposed to be faster, and the Nesla was supposed to finish it off with Water Blade. But instead, Young picks up a double kill, and I think that's going to seal the deal on this game. Very unfortunate for Grunty to make that little mistake. Always worth checking speed tierings when making a play like that. Even when I think I know my team, I always like to make sure and always check to see if there were speed drops. I didn't see any speed drops there. And from here, I just do not believe that Drakash has enough damage output to deal with these two remaining Tems. Mom's lunch on the 2-wire. We saw that in Pick Ban. At the very least, Grunty can maybe play through this turn, get some damage on 2-wire, and figure out if it's going to be a speedier or tankier 2-wire. Gain information for the next matches for his team. That's Vortex on the 2-wire. That's over half. But it is an Iron Coating Drakash, so it's already a pretty high damage. I think the Faraday Cage plus Feather Gatling is going to be enough. GG's. The first game goes to Adorolosporros. I think both players played really well. I think that Grunty getting out of that lead that looked highly unfavorable would have been a really good spot, but unfortunately he just did not, with both of his wins banned out, he didn't have any great answers to the Acronox, forcing the sack on Platamus and a lot of damage on Nesla just to get the Acronox knocked out. Part of me wonders if maybe we should have just seen a Thunderstrike on the Volarant and then have Drakash finish off the the Acronox, assuming it was faster than it, and I'm not sure. I think it was just a really difficult situation. Just waiting to see which players they send in next. Be a common thing for players to send in the same one, so we could see another match from Young because the opposing team already knows what he's running, but at the same time they could send in their best player to counter him, and so they might want to switch it up and send somebody else instead. We will just have to wait and see. It's like one of the players is going to be Morgana, and is going to be versus Young again. So we'll see how this match turns out. Morgana has chosen blue side because the loser's side gets the advantage of picking what side they play on next. Just waiting on the gear images to be sent first so that we can see. It's kind of important for Young's team to know where the gears are because he's running a status-based team with late torment, so if he can ban out the bait and the camo and such, then it can give him a large advantage. Would you like another Magnus encounter or two while we're waiting quick? Alright. Morgana's team's pretty interesting. We see triple wind, triple water, kind of like double water cannon users. There are two toxics and possibly a resistant Gialis, so that kind of puts a damper on Young's plans for the late torment side of his team. So we're more than likely going to see that 2-wire and Mushuk, or like Mushuk with one of the Faraday user combos wanting to be played instead. I would not be surprised to see Mushuk banned out here because of that. Not that Mushuk has particularly good offensive typing into this team, but because it can offer PJAB support into the 2 Faraday Cage users, which can be very threatening. See the Volarun banned instead. I suppose that makes sense. Volarun completely walls Whiplump and Ukama, and makes it a difficult matchup for Mushuk, Nesla, and even the opposing Volarun. See, both Volas banned out. Neither team wanted to deal with the special defense wall. Also, we do not know what trait of Volarun that Morgana is running. We see that it's running Hand Fan, so I would assume it is aerobic. But that's not to say that anaerobic Hand Fan cannot exist. We still see a late Torment combo here. Kind of an interesting choice in my opinion, but we'll see what the plan is. The two vine is carrying bait, but with handcuffs you can hit through bait, or you can trap through bait. The exhaust and the invigorize cancel out, but the trapped applies first, and just the order of operations with bait makes it so that handcuffs does still trap, essentially. Gazuma being banned out. That gives a little bit more space to Whiplump, and banning out a second wind gives a lot of space to the two Toxics as well. I would not be surprised to see everything picked up other than the Molgu on Young's side, because with a net, okay, we see the Molgu picked up anyways. I'm a bit surprised because there's triple water available on Morgana's team that can really ruin Molgu's day. See the Okama left behind for the Gialis. Probably just wanting the melee typing to possibly deal some damage to Volphy in case it swaps on the lead here, and to threaten out the Acronox a little bit if it gets picked. Though Acronox can also hit Gialis back with an Earth-type move, so could go either way there. We do see it picked up. So Morgana has 2 wins, probably going to want to keep them alive, but Whiplump does not have a good turn 1 win, so she's probably going to want to see if she can swap it in at some point safely to get the hold off on the Tornado and HKS. Hyperkinetic Strike. Mushuk having Fake Beard, not a common item on it, but that pretty much gives it away that it is a parrier Mushuk, because Fake Beard would work entirely against Tireless's game plan of running out of stamina to gain attack boosts. A Perfect Jab plus Feather Gatling into the Volphy would hurt it quite bad, but I don't think it would finish it off. I mean, I'm also curious. So we're going to see the 2-Vine double in here. Unless a split attack. 2-Vine has incredibly high base defense and usually has high HP invest. So I would not be surprised in the slightest to see Yowler only deal like 30% with the Late Torment. But Volphy takes a bunch of damage from that double it. Okay, so the Late Torment actually does do 40%, so 2-Vine will die in one more hit. I think it would have though anyways, because Yowler does have Oshidashi, as we saw revealed in the last match. And it doesn't need to save it for anything in the back. However, unfortunately for Young, another Plague from Volphy will not take out the 2-Vine. It is about 2% short, maybe 3%. So it will get another attack off. I was surprised to see the Wastewater come from the Mushuk into the Volphy though. Uppercut would have dealt more damage and probably even taken it out. So it must not be running Uppercut. Maybe it's running Turbo or Intimidation even? Probably Turbo. But you don't really want to click Turbo here if you're Morgana, because your 2-Vine, while you would get synergy on the Mushuk, your 2-Vine's going to die this turn to whatever Yowler's got cooking for it. It's also a bit sketchy to attack the Yowler here, even if you're to lower its defense with P-Jab, because it will get comeback or boost from any damage it takes. It might be worth it to have Mushuk take out the Volphy, but if Volphy is faster than Mushuk, it can get a Dust Vortex off, which would hurt really bad. But no, we see a Quicksand! Makes everything slower, but Yowler doesn't mind. Mushuk, it's gonna put a huge damper on Mushuk's plan though. You see Mushuk use the Wastewater. And then Nutbar activates, minimizing that damage. Late Torment finishing off the 2-Vine. But that speed drop is going to hurt that Mushuk so badly. On the bright side for Morgana, there's 2 special attackers in the back, so Mushuk does not need to outpace its own physical attackers. It may screw up the game plan with Gialis a little, Like Gialis is typically faster than Mashuk and may not be calced to or the speeds may not be staggered in that way. Whiplump coming in against them, the Mashuk is really unfortunate because, like I said, Whiplump really doesn't have any turn 1 wind moves outside of Cold Breeze, which doesn't hit very hard. So if Whiplump wants to survive this turn, it has to swap. Otherwise, it's going to take a Wastewater plus whatever Yowler's got for it. One of the other matches just finished up. It looks like DK's Team Naga has won 4-2 against Bots United. 10 seconds left on the timer and decreasing for one of these players. Possibly Morgana trying to figure out how they're going to come back from this. Ooh. Possibly time running out. Mashuk Turbo, which is very surprising considering Whiplump's more than likely going to die this turn. Yowler going before Mashuk is interesting. Was it Young Base Lord that ran out of time and rested? That could be crucial. That is really bad for Young. Because now that Whiplump has his wind move up and Mashuk is on the board. It looks like Young's internet died. And he's trying to get back, or he did get back, but it was a little bit too far gone. The cage trapping in the Mashuk swap. Mashuk eats the HKS. It lives because Plethoric was knocked out last turn by the Yowler, but it still takes 85% of its health. They're debating on if they want to do a restart, but it looks like Young is accepting the mistake and they're going to continue the match. It was only one turn lost. It was good that he was able to enter the Savage Suplex on the Whiplump before the crash happened. I think that was a very important part because it prevented the Plethoric, which would have given the damage boost it needed to finish off the Mashuk, because Hyperkinetic Strike actually scales off of speed as well as special attack, and Plethoric gives a speed boost. However, it looks like Young disconnected a second time, so I am not sure what the plan is going to be here. That is going to be for the ref to decide. Because that is going to be a double rest on Young's side. Almost impossible to come back from at this point. They're debating on replaying the entire match up until this turn. I think that many turns have passed and it might be kind of difficult. I guess it's only 4 turns, but still. The question of whether Young's computer will continue to work long enough for a match is in question. Well, for what it's worth. As soon as I get the option to, I'm going to... Looks like I can't exit until a time is picked. But I'm just going to hop out and do a couple Magnus encounters while we're waiting, because if the match were to continue in this disconnected state, then Morgana would win without any issues, I believe. But it looks like we're going to be some sort of restart. I'm not sure what the Temtem CS rules are for disconnects. I think it's an automatic win for the opponents. Or like you can return to the match, but any turns that have occurred while disconnected will stay. I know that even if you select the wrong team, like if you pick a pro team in the Temtem CS and you just ask for a restart instantly, it still counts as a loss if the opponent decides that. Top 3 already. I'm casting right now, Scars, so we'll see. I'm just waiting for a consensus between both teams on what's going to happen right now. Cast my own ladder games, I do that plenty. I might do a stream myself later, not sure yet. We have not actually had a disconnect issue like this in the league so far. New to the game, any idea why it lags so hard upon entry to a new area? Kind of jarring. What system are you playing on? PC, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation? And also hello and welcome. I know some of the different systems have. And, I know Switch has a whole bunch of other issues. I think Switch might actually load in a whole bunch of entities from other areas in. And so on top of loading a new area with all the existing entities, it causes a lot of lag, but it stabilizes soon after. I know on PC there's like a short moment when it kind of displays the name, but it clears up really quick. I can't give you a sure reason as to why that happens. I know that before Temtem used to have like literally every player, every Temtem following and such loaded on the screen, and that caused issues. But they fixed that a long time ago. I think it's just a momentary lag for new areas. It kind of sucks, but it's in my opinion it's a really minor thing. If you can just kind of brute force through it, and once a place has been unlocked, it should stop. You only have to go through that little extra animation thing once. Switch gets laggy after about an hour-ish or so for you, so just close and reopen to make it go away. Yeah, Switch, they're slowly getting the Switch bugs figured out, but there's so many. Hello, Kip. Still waiting on the restart here. We had lag at the start of Tuckma with all the smoke. I know that like in the dark cave in Kisiwa, I also have had lag when I first entered and stuff. It's kind of not fun because I already can't see where I'm going. It looks like they have agreed to do a remake for this last match due to the disconnection issues. They're now debating on if they just want to redo the entire match or if they want to redo after a certain turn. So yeah, real sorry about the extra wait here. This is not a common occurrence. I believe that if there will be another disconnection issue, the win will go to Soul Enigma. Because running through everything a third time would be really rough. And also, it would kind of be like a question of will it clear up before the tournament even ends. No. Blame the caster. How dare you? It's not in my power, I promise. So it looks like the plan is to just redo pick ban and play through the game. Just once again. Kind of starting over. Just so they don't have to rewatch all 4 turns and make the exact same plays. Would kind of get confusing then. I don't think that's a huge issue personally. I think that both players can agree to that. But it's up to the specifically Morgana, the one who was playing and was facing the disconnect kind of in this case. Since there's no pre-established rules for this specific case, maybe after this we'll get something in place. Maybe it's an insta loss for the disconnect or he continues playing through the disconnect. I think that would be, while highly unfortunate for whoever disconnects, I think it would be reasonable so that we don't end up waiting with another 15 minutes chaotic mess. Recreate, pick ban, and play is what has been agreed on. So we're just waiting for the invite to be sent now. So hopefully one of them has a picture of the pick ban or can just scroll back in my VOD to grab it real quick. I know that there was Vola banned on both sides. Was the disconnect just for Temtem? Did their internet go down for a little? It looked like it was a black. Alright, all I heard was it was a black screen. I'm not sure the case. The problem is we're trying to make this arguably a competitive format, and in the Temtem like championship series, a black screen disconnect of any kind would still be a loss as far as I know. So it was PC problems, yeah. That's really unfortunate. But here we are. We're finally back in the pick ban. We'll get started. So the pick ban is going to be the exact same, but we could see a different turn 1 and from then on. Makes sense. Sucks though, yeah. Yeah, especially when it's something like a cat pulls out the plug or something. Or just literally the internet provider or something. Alright, so it looks like they might just be kind of like a mutual agreement. Play out the same turn 1. At least that's what it looks like we're going to see from Young Base Lord. We'll see what Morgana chooses to do. Possibly something different because the turn 1 did not kill the Wolfie. But, nope, we see the Wastewater and probably just the Feather Gatling. I'm a little surprised to see that. But I suppose they don't want big changes in the match because then that could be complaints from the opposing side. See the quicksand, just like last time. scuffing the poor mix, Turbine finishing off the Volphy, and Yowler more than likely finishing off the 2-Vine. Oh, but we see the turbo this time, which gives Mashuk +1 speed, counteracting the quicksand. So there's the first play that has been different so far. That could come into play. Yowler, once again, does not mind the speed drops. It's already extremely slow. Late Torments, low prio. We see the Whiplump come in here. Will we see the opposing Mashuk? We do. Curious to see what Morgana does in this situation, now that we know Mashuk won't be resting. Because Whiplump is in a very precarious situation here. It can die turn 1 before it gets its wind moves off to threaten the Mashuk. We just see the water cannon for damage on the Yowler. I suppose Morgana's just accepting the fact that Whiplump won't have a safe board to come onto. And it's also the best way to get damage on Yowler. So Whiplump goes down, as well as what looks to me to be Morgana's best way of dealing with the opposing Mashuk. I would have argued to save 2-Vine turn 1 and swap in something. If it was a resistant Gialis, it would not have gotten trapped and the late Torment would have completely fallen apart. I'm not sure what trait the Gialis is though. I see that the item is Nut Bar. Usually the mirroring ones have some sort of stamina item, whether it be bait, sweatband, or even fake beard, I guess. Usually it's just bait. But the resistant ones kind of are more flexible. See, just a double gash, not doing a whole lot of damage, Nut Bar healing some back. Helicopter kick, just chipping at the Mashuk. See a P-jab into the Gialis. Nut Bar healing a bit back, but the defense drop's the main draw of that move. Clinch dealing so much damage to that Gialis because of the comebacker boost and the defense drop from the P-jab. Mashuk getting a tireless boost now, becoming a large threat, but it will take damage every time it attacks now due to the low stamina and overexertion costs. Morgana wants to save one of those melees to deal with the Acronox in the end, but if Nesla can deal with the Mogu, and Yowler's really low health. So the issue right now is getting rid of Mashuk and having something alive to deal with Acronox as well. We'll see if maybe an uppercut comes out from this Mashuk to finish off the Gialis. Mashuk movesets vary quite a bit. We know that Morgana's has both Turbo and Cage, as well as Wastewater and Heli Kick. But I'm not sure what Young Base Lord's got. We've only seen Perfect Jab and I think Wastewater. Who's Soul, who's Adoro? Morgana is Soul and Young Base Sword is Adoro. Adorolosporros. Yowler goes down to the Wastewater, but Mashuk OXs. We see a second P-jab onto the Gialis, but Gialis had used Sharp Stabs. I'm sure that Morgana is really wishing that they use Crystal Bite on the Mashuk that turn and had Sharp Stabs up now. A highly unfortunate play. And Morgana is running the Parrier Mashuk instead of Tireless, so it will not get a hit off right now. But the Gialis outspeeds the Mashuk anyways, gets the Crystal Bite off, and the Heli Kick. Parrier can probably help this Mashuk take one Faraday from The Molgu, yes, takes it fairly well, actually. The problem is that the strongest melee move that this Mushook has is P-Jab, which does not help Nestla at all. Nestla takes a little bit of Marble's chip, but Nestla gets it back as well. We're gonna have to see like a P-Jab Water Blade Aquatic on this Acronox, and that's gonna have to kill it if you're Morgana. That's what you're thinking. Because a Sting plus... oh, it might even be hard with that combo because next turn Molgu's... oh no, the Heli Kick, not the P-Jab. So yes, an Aquatic will finish off Acronox, but Molgu just needs a little bit of damage to finish off this Nestla. And I don't think it's going to die in one hit. Molgu is very tanky. And Nestla doesn't have a whole lot of stamina to work with. It has to Aquatic here because the Water Blade didn't do quite enough. But it does take out the Acronox. Molgu cheap move, Cyber Claw. Does not do enough damage. But Molgu does no X, so it gets one more attack off. If it's running Rush, a fairly common move on Molgu, then Nestla won't even get to attack. Otherwise, Nestla can get a T-Strike off, but I think that only does like 60-70%, and Molgu can just click any offensive move. I think something that would really throw off the game here would be if Nestla's running Bright Beam. Bright Beam might be able to save the game, because if Young Base Lord clicks an offensive move, OXs, while Nestla has the evasion, then that would still pull the game back. Because then the Molgu would be in range to die to an Aquatic Whirlwind. Bright Beam's not a common move on Nestla at all, though. And Molgu has to attack this turn because a T-Strike plus an Aquatic Whirlwind would kill it next turn. Self T-Strike. Well, you technically could do that. I don't think that heals enough to survive like a turbo attack. See the T-Strike coming out. Takes Nestla down to 0 stamina. Is it calced or is it OX? Okay. Molgu had Reactive Vial. I still think it would have died to an Aquatic, but Molgu attacks. Turbo attack finishes off. Yeah, the only way that Morgana was able to win in that situation was if the Nestla had Bright Beam. But GG's, well played. Young Base Lord with a second win for Adorolosporros. And Soul Enigma losing their second player today. Now, Young Base Lord is able to play another match if they so choose. Otherwise, they could send in someone different from Adoro's team. Maybe that would give him time just in case more internet issues occurred. I'm not sure what was going on with his PC, but maybe it's all fixed now and there's no worries anyways. We'll just have to see what they decide on. Sorry, my chair squeaks. Maybe you guys can hear that, maybe not. Morgana is now mentioning that she should have self T-striked, but didn't wait for a teammate to point that out. Turbo attack from Molgu is a very strong move. I don't think it would have healed enough. So it would have been very difficult. Molgu has very high physical attack, and turbo attack has 130 base power. Nestla has less base special attack, and T-Strike only has 107 base power. Not to mention, Electric Synthesize heals based off how much damage Nestla takes, and Nestla has fairly high special defense and lower defense as well. So it would have healed less and still taken more. So even a self T-Strike I don't think would have won in that situation. It was interesting to see that Rush was not clicked though. That's good information for for the next matches that maybe Soul Enigma can take advantage of. I personally love Rush on Mulgu. I think it's a very strong move. I know Cage is also a common option to take advantage of the Splitter trait. We have the next match. I'll just do this again. It's Neo X Elite versus Young Baselord. Neo X Elite has chosen the blue side. See yet another Volerend on Neo X Elite's side, and it looks like Hand Fan, probably aerobic. There's also Iron Coating Volphy, not common. Usually you see something like Handcuffs on Volphy. Just waiting for the invite to be sent, and we'll hop into the match. And I can actually show you guys the team. Maybe. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. It was like silent in the game. I don't know if the cave just doesn't have background music or if it's turned off for some reason. Side Park weird like that. Alright, so Hedgen with double neutral usually means that it's running a Generify. So like Valash and Mooflank. Sometimes Hedgen runs Kaleidoscope, but we can see that this one does not. It's very good information for Young to work with. The Nestla this time does have Chamomile, and the Oshiara has Bait. Two Tems that can kind of prevent the late Torment strategy. So we'll see what Young wants to do based on that. Still triple toxic on Young's side. So like the double waters, even though they have good items, will still take a lot of damage. See the Yowler banned out. So not wanting to having to deal with such a tanky Tem and Nut Bar as a broken item. And constant damage and with late Torment or just even Savage and a little bit of coverage with Oshidashi. Because Oshi gives Yowler a positive matchup into something that's really common in the meta, like Volphy specifically, but also it can hit Valash super effective in this case too. Mooflank is not weak specifically here because there's no mentals. I wouldn't be surprised to see it picked up. We see the Hedgen first though, because that allows Neo to pick the neutral that's right for the situation. I think Mooflank is always going to be picked here, though. I'm a little surprised to see Hedgen being the first one picked up because it just gets countered by Acronox here, or even the Whiplump. So we're like Hedgen has options though. It can either generify with synergy or without synergy. We'll see what Neo picks first. I guess I'm thinking of a different game plan here than he is. Acronox plus Mulgu is a pretty strong lead. Mulgu gets Faraday Cage synergy. There's no immediate win types outside of Volerend on Neo's team, and the Volerend is banned. We see the Mooflank picked up. Bestial Charge turn 1 does a ton of damage on both Tems here. We might see the sack on Hedgen just for a solid harmful onto Mulgu. But we'll see if Young even attacks the Hedgen, predicting it to either swap or synergy generify. It's very hard to say. We see the Nestla banned now. So there goes one of Neo's best counters to Whiplump. And even the Volerend. You bet Generify? I do too, but Generify is also the obvious choice here. So sometimes the best play is to mix it up when your opponent's least expecting it. Like, Generify is so obvious here into two things that can hit it super effective that not hitting it could be the right play. Like Faraday Cage synergy probably would not even do half without the Toxic Tick, and then the second Toxic Tick can be pushed off by a second Generify. And if move flank's ignored, it just outputs constant damage. Constant unresisted damage. Or we was casting a Masha, looks like it's going to turn 25. How unfortunate. I'll have the disconnect, he can have the stall. Alright, so it's Sweatband Hedgen, so that gives Hedgen a lot more staying power. And it allows it to click moves like Generify almost for free stamina-wise. Both teams have Mashuk Volfi, which I didn't touch on earlier. And both Mashuks are probably the best options they have against their respective Volfis, so... The Archetypes on Young's side are going to be really important to take out the Hedgen and the Valash. We just see the Generify. If I was Young, I would just double into the move flank here, Soil Steam Faraday. Yeah. For this reason is why I would have harmfuled on Hedgen, because the Generify was so obvious that this happens. And also, if this Molgu had Rush, which he knows it doesn't, you could just rush the move flank and it dies. Not that you really need to this turn. Doubling into the Hedgen was correct, the thing destroys the backline. It's not like Volfi loses horribly and 2-wire cancels out types. I think ignoring move flank is just as bad as well. Personally, like if I see move flank Hedgen, I just ban out either the Hedgen or the move flank. It's just so strong. Unless I have one way of KOing turn 1 and knowing its item. It's a very strong lead. We actually see the Molgu saved. Nothing resists digital though. Volfi has a bit higher special defense to take it, so that's probably why we see it. Still gonna take a bunch of damage though. Maybe I was predicting a binary flood. But Volfi does not like that goring. So much damage. What does Acronox do here? Maybe the Toxin Shower? Yep. Finish off the move flank. So there's one of the neutrals down. Hedgen slightly more vulnerable. Can't even disable Arvile with B-Flood. Right, but it does do a lot of spread damage. Like, Acronox would be at half health now. Hedgen Mashuk board. Yeah, this board is a bit sketch, but it... Not sure how many options Neo really had. We could see... We're going to more than likely see Hedgen swap for the Volfi, just to eat the incoming Earth move. Acronox could get a Soil Steam on Mashuk and punish it for its low special defense though, which is probably what we'll see here. Also, potentially, if Hedgen wanted to swap to Generify again and Valash was on the board, it would be a good play as well. Worth noting though, that Hedgen does have Fire Tornado up if it's running it. So it can unleash that nuke at some point. Yeah, Acronox swap out, even with the evasion. Not what I was expecting. 2-wire swapping in, maybe handcuffs onto the Mashuk to push off the neutralized after Volfi dies, then bringing in the Molgu to hit it super effective when it's trapped. Or Quicksand. That works too. Volfi not able to avoid the Quicksand with Team Elusive anymore after the mid-patch update. Mushoku waxing from the 2 hours mom's lunch, giving it a tireless boost. So kind of working against Young there. It is now slow, but can do lots of damage potentially. Also, the handcuffs with the mom's lunch actually proccing on the quicksand, worth mentioning. So both of them are trapped and Mushoku is no longer neutralized. So 2-Wire can hit it with a turbo attack. And Mushoku can hit the Volfi with like an uppercut or something. Young losing one of the Earths that he had to deal with Valash and Hedgen is a little sketchy though. I'm not sure how I feel about that decision. They kind of did have to do that to get rid of the move flank earlier. And it's not like Volfi went out without doing anything. Getting that quicksand off really gives him a good speed advantage. Valash can't actually hit anything for super effective damage. It's just that it can do lots of consistent damage to whatever. See a P-jab onto the Volfi, and a turbo onto the Mushoku. No surprises. Oh, it does not quite take out the Mushoku though. Gets a helicopter kick. Not going to do much to the Mushoku, but does a third of the 2-Wire's health, and it goes down to the OX. See a Dust Vortex from Volfi onto the Mushoku. And now Hedgen is surely going to come in and just click Binary Flood. Unless this is a very bulky 2-Wire, it's going to be a double kill, but even if it is a bulky 2-Wire, Volfi just plagues and finishes it off before it can move. Even -2, Volfi usually has enough speed, and with Prio, with Plague, to outspeed and kill whatever would be left of the 2-Wire. It looks like it could end up in an endgame with Hedgen Valash, which allows Hedgen to click Generify whenever it wants to, or to avoid any severe damage from the Acronox soil steaming. So for that reason, I have to say that this game's looking like it's going in Neo's favor. Volfi swapping out for Valash, kind of an interesting play. Maybe just taking the safe Generify on the Hedgen? Nope, we see the Binary Flood. Not killing either Tem! This is actually huge. But we see the Wastewater on the Volfi slot, hitting Valash, doing like nothing. What does 2-Wire do? 2-Wire uses Faraday Cage on the Hedgen. Okay. Will this be enough after the Toxic Tick? It will be! Hedgen goes down. I think you had to keep Volfi in if you were Neo there. And just make sure the 2-Wire dies, because Hedgen was in no fear of losing after 2-Wire goes down. Valash getting holds off and a little buff with Jack of all trades. The Volfi able to outspeed and finish off the Mushoku, but it's still -2 defense, -2 speed. A Plague plus a Major Slash is going to have to be enough to take down this Acronox. At least that's probably what you're thinking if you're Neo. But even then, Mulgu gets to kind of just roam free and get damage on whoever it wants. I believe Turbo Attack is up, so it can click down on the Valash, and if it does, enough that a Faraday Cage can finish off after, then it doesn't matter, but that's a very bulky Acronox. The Plague Major Slash doesn't quite finish it off, so that means Acronox gets a Soil Steam off on the Valash, and Molgu probably finishing off the Volphy with a turbo attack, due to the -2 defense from earlier. Maybe turbo wasn't up, it's just a Faraday. Still finishing it off though. I think that was kind of a throw, not plaguing the 2-wire, but GG's Young Base Lord might end up with a sweep here. He is 3-0 on the side of Adoro. So that means that Soul Enigma only has one more player that they are able to come to send in. Will we see a reverse sweep, or will we see a Young Base Lord come through with a 4-0? Or maybe, well, I don't know, we'll just have to see. We already can tell that Young Base Lord will be playing again in the 4th round. No point in them kind of planning behind the scenes, because Soul Enigma only has one more player they even have the ability to send in. I'm actually not sure who it is. I wasn't told who's playing on each team ahead of time. So we'll just have to see. Oh. It looks like it's going to be Mr. Red Moon. Mr. Red Moon's running a team. Looks like it's got kind of like a physical mimic core with stuff like Size Munch, Zalbian, double 2-Vine for Synergy H-Slaps. I'm a bit surprised to see Hazrat with only 1 water, but I'm assuming there's a superconductivity Volgon there. Volgon's actually got first aid kit, which is not a common item on it. Probably a tag team on the 2-2, because if it gets mimited, the damage resistance doubles. Although this team is fairly digi-weak, with 4 weaknesses, effectively 5 depending on what Mimic copies. So we're gonna have to see what gets banned out here. Yeah, one of the digis would make sense. I would personally go for the Molgu, but I guess potential Acronox into like Sting to push off, and then Faraday Cage to still give type advantage would be very bad for Red Moon's side. So either Digi makes sense completely. So we see the 2-wire band out, and then also the 2-2. That gives a little less tankiness available for the Size Munch. And from experience, I can say 2-2-2-Vine is also a very strong lead. I think Young just has been consistently banning the winds out, and that's been working out for him. So he's really able to play his triple toxic core without a whole lot of worries. So I think Red Moon, what he really should do here is pick the 2-Vine up, but we see the Zalbian instead. Zalbian's turn 1 options usually consist of Wastewater and Electro Punch, but also could be Telekinetic Shrapnel. But Electro Punch and Wastewater both get resisted by Acronox for sure, and they also don't do a whole lot to Volphy or Shook. So I'd be surprised to see it if we get the double on the Zalbian here. See Mogu, Acronox. Acronox, I was expecting it's for sure. And Mogu, like I said, digitals are very strong into this team. Kind of prevents the Size Munch pick and also threatens out the Mimit pick. But if Mimit is picked up, a double Electro Punch is probably heading that Mogu's way. But at the same time, Acronox just roams free, so kind of a hard choice. See this I picked up though. Mogu's still having a really positive board. We know that this Mogu's reactive Vial, so it can take a Nox Bomb plus whatever else really. Yeah, Kip, it's our Vial. So it really doesn't die to the double in here. Young debating on banning the Mimit, it looks like, just so he doesn't have to try and figure out any shenanigans there. Looks to be the case. Mogu just claims a kill. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a trade here, Mogu, for whichever one of these two that Young chooses. I'm a bit surprised Young did not ban out the 2-Vine. I would... Because my assumption here is after the turn 1 trade, Mogu survives on a little bit of health. We see 2-Vine brought in, and a Feather Gatling on the Acronox, and whichever Tom of the two survives finishes off Mogu, whatever it survives with. With both the Psypat and the Volgon picked up, I would not be surprised to see Hazrat chosen as well. It can resist the toxic hits, but since the Young Base Lord is on the orange side, he will get last pick and could pick Voloran to counter the Hazrat. Mogu lives on like 26%. After a Nox Bomb Wastewater, really? I mean, still in range to die from just about any secondary hit from these strong offensive Tems. See, Mashuk and Yowler. The only Tem that's able to apply Trapped is probably the Acronox, but maybe the Mashuk has Cage. I don't think we've seen Young's full moveset on his Mashuk. Acronox with Marbles, just to confirm any kills a little bit further. The other thing if Zalbian does click Wastewater here is that it will actually not take Poison Ticks from Faraday Cage synergy. It's also not weak to the Soil Steam. So I'm assuming that's what it's going to click, and after the Arvile procs, it'll do neutral damage to the Mogu, but it doesn't apply the Toxic Tick, which is still really unfortunate because Mogu is Splitter. So we could see the Electro Punch just for the extra 20 BP that it has over Wastewater. We'll just have to see. These players know their teams better than I do. Might get outsped if he punches, that's true. See the Mogu saved. And Mashuk coming in. But to eat the fairly obvious Nox Bomb Wastewater double in, I think that's a good play. Mashuk takes 15% from that Wastewater. Psypack gets trapped in, a good chunk of his health gone with a Sting. We do see the Electro Punch though, so kind of covering for the swap a little bit. Mashuk still not taking a whole lot of damage though. Its defense stat is through the roof, very high. Psypat's melee moves are off hold now, whether it wants to use Nicho or Nito. Both of them could hit the Acronox very hard and go before the Toxin Shower. But also Mashuk's not in danger of dying here, I don't believe. So we could see Acronox swapped out and saved for later. And so Psypat just kind of whiffs and dies to the Mashuk. Zalbian probably bringing either Turbine or Cyberclaw here to hit the Mashuk for a lot of damage. We'll just have to see which one it's bringing. think Turbine plus Nox kills Shook. Possible, but I think unlikely. I think Turbo Attack kills because you turn Mono Digi and dodge double screen. I don't think this is a Voltaic Charge Zalbian. I don't see an Attack T, or no, it's not a Voltaic Charge, but I don't see Attack T Zalbians bring Turbo Attack almost ever. A little surprised by it. I think it's a very strong move, but I really don't run a lot of Zalbian. I think typically people prioritize priority. Yeah, prioritize priority. One of these players taking a long time to think about what they want to do. We see much Shook swap. Very interesting. Back for the Molgu. So if Cyberclaw is used here, this Molgu is going to be hurting, but it will have Reactive Vial procced. We see Acronox stay in to eat the Nicho for 70% of its health. Shinobi Tactics, Toxin Shower. Saipat lives after the Toxic Tick. Zalbian uses Electro Punch to cover for its likely swap. I think that was a huge turn for Red Moon. However, Zalbian currently still does not have synergy for Electro Punch. Volgon would have to swap in, making a double weak board for Soil Steam on the Acronox. And a double in still won't kill Molgu, but Molgu has Turbo Attack up and can certainly one-shot the Zalbian. Yeah, okay, not certainly, but it's lost a little bit of health so far. And Turbo Attack is such a strong move. It looks like Young is running really low on time. I hope his PC didn't crash again. But maybe that was just a visual bug. Saipat, Schween's Horn onto the Molgu, doing a bunch of damage. It does OX to death, so we'll see what the Zalbian does here. Acronox gets the Sting off. Received a Turbine. See the Crystal Bite. Does not take out the Molgu, it lives on 2%. So both Zalbian and Saipat going down. But both of Young's Tems are very low health. See, Tuvine is Size Munch brought in. I think he wants to save the Volgon for the Whiplump later, so this is not surprising at all. But since Acronox survived the turn, it does get Marbles proc on both of these Tems. Just not something Red Moon wanted to see. You don't get Nutbar Zal. I think it's a lot more prevalent when you're getting hit with neutral attacks. Sorry, it looks like one of my roommates is vacuuming. Maybe you guys can hear that. Okay. Mashuk is low, but I think it still dies. No, I think it lives a Feather Gatling from Tuvine. See the cage? Proccing Tuvine's bait. That's actually kind of helping the Tuvine out. Giving it the Invigorize before it attacks. I don't think it was swapping here anyways. Size Munch does eat the Sting though. Didn't really want to, but it was just how it was going to turn out. Molgu going down, and Tuvine as well. So Size Munch cannot swap now. Whiplump surely comes in and finishes off with a Water Cannon, and then Yowler comes in just to eat whatever Tuvine's got for it. So that cage is going to end up being a very good play. Although the Sting would have done the same thing because of Cobweb, but not knowing what Size Munch was running is understandable. I have actually lost because I faced a Martial Strike Size Munch before. So if this Size Munch had Martial Strike and killed the Acronox before it got Sting off and didn't cage, that could have been a huge issue. We see the Reactive Vial proc, helping Size Munch survive here after the Water Cannon and Toxic Tick. However, I don't think this is going to be enough to save it because the Yowler just doubles in. No, it doesn't double in. But Whiplump still is on the board and able to threaten out the Thank you, Laura Weaver. Hello, everybody. We are in potentially the final match of the Sol Enigma versus Adorolosporros match. Potentially. We'll see. Red Moon is the last remaining player for Sol Enigma, but things are looking a little grim for him. Young Baselord has already gotten 3 wins for the side of Adoro. Why did that happen twice? Thank you. Hello? That's very interesting. Oh, I don't even see Lulu. You said you're running Martial Strike and Wrenching as your 2 melee moves on Munch. Oh my goodness. That's an interesting combo there. Like, Volgon? Like, turn 1 Wrenching damage plus synergy with Seismon Shrek or something? You see the Thunder Strike come out onto the Yowler? Does finish it off. If this Volgon's running Electric Storm, it could one-shot Whiplump and deal enough damage to Mashuk. But that would mean that Volgon has to take the double in here and outspeed the Mashuk next turn, which I think is a lot to ask for in this situation. Also considering the Water Cannon. Toxic Ticks. I just don't think it's going to be enough. Volgon lives the Wastewater, but it will go down. No, the First Aid Kit! Helping the Volgon survive just slightly longer. Take out the Whiplump. Is this Volgon running Blizzard? We won't get to find out because it goes down to the Wastewater. Ah, very close game. Only a half health Mashuk remaining. But Young Baselord getting the full sweep on Sol Enigma. That is going to be a 4-0 win for Adorolosporros. Think killing Whiplump and not Yowler was better? Probably. I think it was a bit rough a few turns earlier. But I think Red Moon did everything he could. Young Baselord is a threat. Really, he took down the entire team. I think he's put in a lot of work in the other matches as well. So, hope you guys enjoyed this series. That's all I got today. Is there another match going on we can go and raid? XR, hello, welcome. Maybe Seabite on Molgu should have been a turn invested in on Acronox instead. Ah, that's right, that's right. I think that would have been better. Turbine to kill the Acronox. Like I don't know what that Zabian's moveset was. All we saw was Electro Punch and the Crystal Bite. Yeah, I think the vacuum's getting closer and louder, so no, it looks like the other match also finished up 4-0. Spanish Inquisition 4-0 over Phoenix. Alright, so that is actually all the content we have as far as the League Community Tournament today. So I hope you guys enjoyed all of it. I know for this VOD will be available on my YouTube afterwards. If anyone wants to go back and check it out. Otherwise, it's still on the Twitch as well. When's the next one? We don't know. We're kind of just going to have to... The teams will schedule next week once the matchups are set. If you want, somebody can send you an invite to the League Community Discord, and then you can see the schedule for when the matches are and pop in then. Otherwise, usually the streams are posted in the main Discord under the media channel. But yes, that is all. I may do a stream personally later if anyone wants to stop by that, but no guarantees. Thank you all once again. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye-bye.